Hi everybody, my name is Jill Morgan and we're talking about storage and delivery of medical gas. This is part 3 of a 3-part series. Our learning objectives for this part of the series are to select the appropriate devices to regulate gas pressure or to control flow in the various clinical settings, and we're going to talk about the difference between the two. You should be able to describe how to assemble, check for proper function, and identify malfunctions in gas delivery equipment, as well as identify and correct common malfunctions of gas delivery equipment. Regulating gas pressure and flow. We're going to talk about the difference between a reducing valve, a flow meter, and a regulator. Let's start with the reducing valve. A reducing valve may be single stage or multi-stage. A reducing valve is used to reduce the gas pressure to a usable level. In this case, 50 psig. Next, let's talk about a flow meter. What is a flow meter? Well, a flow meter is used to control flow to the patient, and I'll show you several different types of flow meter. A regulator combines both. A regulator is used to control both pressure and flow. So a regulator contains both a reducing valve and a flow meter. We're going to start by talking about low gas pressure flow meters. Flow meters allow the rate of gas flow to the patient to be set and controlled, such as a half a liter, 2 liters, 10 liters, whatever it is you'd like to set for your patient. There are 3 main categories of flow meters: a flow restrictor, a bourdon gauge, or a Thorpe tube. I'm going to show you the difference in each. A flow restrictor is the simplest and least expensive flow meter device, pictured here. It consists of a fixed orifice calibrated to deliver a specific flow at a constant pressure. Operation is based on the principle of flow resistance. So let's talk about how flow restrictors work. Gas flow through a tube can be quantified as R equal P1 minus P2 divided by V. This can be rearranged to V is equal to P1 minus P2 divided by R. V is equal to the volumetric flow per unit of time, like 3 liters per minute. P1 is the pressure at the upstream point, P2 is the pressure at the downstream point, and R is the total resistance to gas flow. This is the mathematics and calculations that a flow restrictor flow meter is based on. Flow restrictors and bourdon gauges are great when you have to transport patients. They don't waver when they are laid flat. A bourdon gauge is always used in combination with an adjustable pressure reducing valve. The bourdon gauge uses a fixed orifice but operates under variable pressures. It isn't gravity dependent, so it's ideal for patient transport. However, it is not accurate when the pressure distal to the orifice or away from the orifice changes. It's going to read the same no matter what, even if someone steps on your tubing. Here's how a bourdon gauge works. There's a hollow tube inside, pressure at a calibrated orifice, Gas goes in the inlet connector, the pressure indicator gear reads the pressure, and the hollow tube adjusts as you adjust for flow. Let's talk about grab and goes. Grab and goes are an integrated oxygen cylinder. Grab and goes eliminate the need for separate oxygen tanks, board-on gauge regulators, and oxygen key and wrenches. Flow is selected, and oxygen tubing to the system can simply be connected, and the tank can be turned on. There is no key needed. Grab and goes are extremely convenient and used widely in hospitals throughout the United States. Pictured here are oxygen e-cylinders with a grab and go system. One is hooked to 50 psig. The other has an outlet where you could put a nasal cannula or other piece of oxygen equipment. Pictured here is a traditional Thorpe tube. Thorpe tubes these days are compensated. There are both uncompensated and compensated Thorpe tubes, but in the hospital you're not likely to find an uncompensated Thorpe tube. The Thorpe tube functions as a flow variable orifice, constant pressure flow meter device. By increasing the size of the orifice, it increases the gas flow. It is always attached, as you see here, to a 50 psig source, and it is used to measure true flow. First, let's talk about pressure compensated Thorpe tubes. Pictured here is a pressure compensated Thorpe tube. It prevents changes in downstream resistance or back pressure from affecting the accuracy of the meter. It is calibrated at 50 psig instead of atmospheric pressure, so it will read the same whether you're at a hospital in Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, or a hospital in Seattle at sea level. The flow control needle is placed after or distal to the flow tube, and it's gravity dependent, so you shouldn't use it if you have to lay a tank flat, like for patient transport. Now let's talk about an uncompensated Thorpe tube. These are usually used in laboratories, and they're calibrated for the specific atmospheric pressure without restriction of the laboratory where it will be used. I would need one specially calibrated for my laboratory in Seattle, and I would have to have it recalibrated for a laboratory in Denver. Gas from a 50 psi source still flows into the meter at a rate controlled by the needle valve, which is located before the flow tube. Thank you for your time and attention today, talking about regulators, flow meters, and reducing valves. Have a great day.